Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. Another rainy day here in my neighborhood. Aggressive wind, and it's kind of cold, so I don't have the window open today. I'd be freezing because I'm already a bit chilly, which is how I know it must be chill outside. I still feel certain that it's a matter of maybe just more a more heightened cleansing. Yesterday was kind of sweet and mild. Today's a little bit more aggressive, a bit more intense, but all part of me very necessary. It's all very necessary. So, pardon me. Let's see what we got here today. Hierophant. Cleansing of society, world structures, the order of things, corporations. Yeah, that all makes sense. High-level positions. The pillars of society are being realigned, maybe perhaps cleansed and cleared. Yeah, the pillars of society, and I always miss one, but religion, education, entertainment, business. That's always one that I miss. Religion, education, business, entertainment. It's always one that I'm like, and I have an acronym for it, but then I always forget the acronym in the heat of a moment. So maybe it'll come back to me. Government. That's what it is. Duh, of course, government, one of the biggest. Yeah, so religion, education, business, entertainment, government, or politics, or something along those lines. Those are the 5 pillars, and this is a 5. Go figure. I never even made that correlation before with the pillars and the I'm gonna just take this out. I don't know where we're going with this. Let me see what's on the bottom. What we don't know and what we haven't been privy to the knowledge of and the revelation of is what's being cleansed, perhaps exposed and then cleansed and cleared. But as the wind seems to be getting more aggressive at this time, I think we may be on to something here. So let's see where we are today. Got an altar boy here. Yeah. Backlash on how the little man has been used as a work mule to fuel the system, to almost said fund the system, but certainly fuel the system. But like the altar boy, like almost a servant to the establishment, as the altar boy is kind of like a service to the church, not a servant, but he's in service, spiritual service to the church. And we all know that dynamic, diabolically speaking, between the altar boys and the priests, what that can represent in the lowest frequency: abuse, manipulation. So yeah, that's what's being cleansed and being reformed, maybe even being attacked. So some high level is, and you know what, with the Hierophant, again, I think I've said this before, but it's not just a matter of high level, meaning, someone that is at the head of a church or the head of an organization or a public leader. There's all that too, but it could just be someone that has a great deal of influence over those that they are connected to, such as the dynamic between a father and a son, or an elder and the younger generation. There's been some distortion in that connection, maybe even some perversion in that connection. And it's not, of course, exclusive to masculine energies as it's being expressed here, but we know it makes sense to me that it is coming out that way. And then the Eight of Wands is like extra emphasis on the patriarchy and how those powers have been misused and abused against those that may have been less able to defend themselves or protect themselves, or just vulnerable, period. Some people that may have just looked up to certain individuals or revered them with a certain level of respect, and for that reason became vulnerable to manipulation or some egregious acts, and then on account of that weren't so inclined to report it or to challenge it because of that strained dynamic. It's just giving a voice to the voiceless, or giving power to the powerless now, is what's happening in real time. Wow, yeah. So it's like the energy of those that were poised in a position of power and prominence in one regard, or in a position to be impactful, assumingly in a positive way, where you would feel that you could be trusted or trust yourself in the care of said individuals, such as your religious leader, your teacher, your father, your grandfather, your elected official, your boss, that you're kind of at the mercy of to some degree. But here's the confirmation here as to what the true nature is behind that veil, behind those robes, behind that position. This is jealousy, it's competition, it could be envy, deception. It's distorted. It's very distorted. mental abuse, manipulation, and it's very covert at that, because as I said, you wouldn't expect to be harmed by individuals such as this. It's quite the opposite. And then when you are, it's kind of like a double, triple effect of trauma, because you trusted yourself in the hands of someone that should be trusted. You were betrayed, and then that also sabotages your propensity to trust beyond that measure again, not just for those that seem to be trustworthy, but then of course anybody, because if you can be hurt or mismanaged by energies that should have your best interest at heart, how else could you be affected by those that don't have any allegiance or loyalty to you or to any oath or responsibility at all, you know? It's something that's definitely up for judgment now, more than just about anything, because of what I just said, of the traumatic cycle that it creates, and then the continuum of it, because now that energy that could have happened at a child or at a young age or in a vulnerable state is passed into a legacy, and now it becomes the issues of the continuance of a bloodline or a legacy that doesn't even have that firsthand experience, but now they get to absorb all the trauma of their predecessors. That's so unfair. And that's what's been happening. Like, we know, I could speak to many different dynamics such as that, but that's what's fallen under the heaviest judgment now, for retribution and recovery, redemption for those that have been affected, justice, judgment, sentencing, all of that, restoration. Because it's been the greatest offense throughout creation, was kept creation in a traumatic cycle, and from us truly evolving in the way that we would have been destined to do so without interference, without manipulation and all of that defeat. There's that, and a cycle right there. Ace of Swords, which confirmation in itself, but also here is that Six of Cups, where it's like keeping you on this loop of a generational cycle. So now what's being revealed is the origin, perhaps, of the break in that chain, like where it all began. Because what we're experiencing now is the continuum, and also the breaking, as many of us are curse breakers, you know? So what is being revealed is where it all stemmed from, and where we picked up this energy. And now how, because if you have that information as to where it started, then you're more likely to know how it gets to end with you, or why it is ending with you, or who who the so-called culprit, or what the energy of the culprit may be. Like, it's like knowing what the curse is to be able to finally release it. Because some of us have been kind of doing the work, like in servitude, not really knowing exactly, the capacity fully in which we were serving, just kind of going through the motions, doing the rituals, doing, what's been designed for us in the positions that we have committed to, being a living sacrifice in some ways, to our own dynasty and legacy, but really not knowing how impactful we've been, not knowing how much headway we've made, just knowing that we're doing something different, but you don't really know the impact that you truly are making and have made on account of what's been incurred to you, but also to your entire bloodline, your legacy, your lineage, your family, a generation, whatever it is that you're championing for. You haven't quite known how precious your impact truly was, your devotion and dedication of energy, time, attention to just taking care of self even has been to release your legacy, yourself and your lineage, whatever's connected, from chains of a cycle. And now with that knowledge, that clarity, that revelation, I think it gives more, it makes that awareness that much more clear, to build confidence and courage for how you can continue on, or just a point of that being a point of retribution and reward in itself, to know that to know how valuable you've been, your presence alone has been to now. In addition to having that undergirding of confidence and courage to continue on, to carry that torch, to know that the breaking away was necessary, it was ordained, it was imperative to even your own survival, let alone to thrive beyond the cycle. It's something about that there that's heavy for me when it comes to the Six of Cups, because it's like, when you don't know, in the most primitive, practical sense, you just keep doing it. How they say, if you knew better, you do better. And sometimes we didn't know, and we were just perpetuating the cycles, because that's just how life has always been. We always did this as a family. We've always done that, or this is how it was taught to you, or this is what expectations were projected upon you, and we just lived in that order because it felt right. And then to finally just have a revelation internally, more than anything, is what's happened to a lot of us, where we didn't have the clarity as to why one day we just woke up assured that what we've been doing has not been right. Like something has not, it's not, it doesn't have longevity. It doesn't sustain for the long run. There's something needed to change. And then we did that again, not knowing what that small change could impact on a grander scale. And then it's like how I just went back to now go forward. It's like now you're getting the clarity, the truth, the revelation, the aha moment as to, oh, I did that. I broke that off. I disconnected from these people or that person because this is what was going on. A lot of stuff was happening on a very subconscious level, in the psyche, in the mind, places that you can't really touch tangibly, So to be activated to reform yourself from those abuses and infractions in a very physical way, in an actual practical way, it's like a miracle in itself. So it's now knowing exactly how much of a miracle you are. And, on account of that, it gives you a more full frame of a picture of who you've become, like who you've been and who you've become. Because it's one thing to just feel like, okay, I did a little something for myself. Maybe just me choosing to follow my passion as opposed to being stuck in a job that I don't like. It's something different. But little did you know that small act of courage is changing the trajectory for an entire legacy to follow of those that now see you or know of you or have you as evidence to know that it's possible to be successful doing the things that you love, just in that small practical way. But we're talking about bigger things, certainly, when we got the Hierophant here and the page of the Ace of Swords against great opposition and resistance here. Like, this is hidden enemies that you didn't even know were working against you to keep you from advancing yourself or your heritage beyond a certain point, that wanted to keep you small, that even when you were making headway, wouldn't have wanted you to connect to that truth so that you wouldn't feel accomplished or successful to continue on. That's why it's so important to know exactly how impactful and how great of an impression you actually have made for the redemption of the past, but also to know like how important it is for you to not stop here. There's so much more that you get to do now, knowing so much more of your potential at this point. So let me get to the other side. Yeah, that Six of Cups is like the energies of family just wanting to kind of keep you subdued in a certain way of life. Like, we love you. This is what we do. Why don't you want to be a part of us? And they make in some regards, it's like it may be the innocence of the cycle itself can just continuing to pass down, because to some degree, even our parents don't realize the cycle that they've perpetuated, even as they've done something a slight different than what they experienced. They still don't know how they're carrying on patterns that are not forwarding and productive and prosperous. They're just doing the best they can with what they have in the highest vibration, And even us as parents, they're the reason why it's been so important for us to really break free and almost become as little children, heal our inner child, as a matter of fact, is so that we wouldn't perpetuate those cycles anymore. That's what has transcended some of us as the cycle breakers, to be able to make the hardcore, draw the hardcore lines of demarcation to say, like, I know that this has felt good and it even has seemed good to me, but there's something here that I know is not right. And this is where I have to draw the line before I pass it on to my progeny and my legacy. It doesn't mean that any generation from here to before is any better than. It's just a matter of will and decision to break, what needs to be broken, to release what is no longer serving. And I feel like each generation has become more and more courageous to do that, or has had the impulse by way of circumstance and surroundings to do something different. It's just that this moment in time is so much more pivotal for the transference of energy that would transcend the cycle altogether. To not take anything along at this point. It's like no longer like bargaining for what gets to be, what gets to stay, and what gets to go. You know, like really kind of like negotiating is what I'm trying to say. Like negotiating, well, we've always done it like this, and I may not really love it that much, but this is what we do. It's like, no, well, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't feel good, you don't see the value, you don't see the relevance, you don't see the productivity, the prosperity, then why are we doing it again? Or why does it still exist? Why does it still have relevance? Why do we still believe in this? Why are we still giving this precedence in our lives? Like, and it could be so many different things uniquely to so many different people, you know. But it's like I said, it's a matter of this intense cleansing and purifying of creation, just as I compared it to, you know, the weather as it is now, at least where I am. It has to happen. It needs to happen. It's just time for it to happen. There's no room for negotiations anymore. Yeah, and this is like holding on to what's always been here with the Four of Pentacles, not wanting to let certain ideals go, certain comforts and securities go. That's the madness behind the method of resistance here, to keep things as they are, for fear of change, for fear of not having enough or being able to live up to whatever the expectation for change may be. And also losing control as well. I sometimes see this lately as like somebody trying to keep trying to have a very like what's the right word, like intense control over their vehicle. Like they look like they're driving, but they're driving real tight up on the wheel and trying to, you know, like an older person might, you know, really up on the wheel. And in this case, over their vehicle, meaning their body, you know, their celestial being in the human form, not really wanting to control seems too mild. It's something more than that. Like I can't think of the word that I'm really, but something more intense than control. Like really is like they want to handle every movement, you know, resisting everything that doesn't feel in the line. Like they want to go, like imagine, I don't know if you've ever, because this day and age, I don't even know if that's still a thing, but I used to have an older car. My first car was much older. And if you ever had that issue, it's usually, I think, like a transmission type of thing. Oh, transmission. That's what it is, to control the transmission of energy for transcendence. So I think it's usually a transmission type of thing, of when you're trying to steer the wheel, but it's very hard. And you have to almost like, at that point, you know, clearly, if you have experienced this, it's time for you to park that thing and go get it checked out. But I remember like my first car had an issue like that. My first car was I think that thing was like I want to say either an 86, 87, or 88 Sunbird. And it was red with 4 doors. It was a car that was sitting around my uncle's backyard that, you know, he wasn't driving anymore. He had upgraded, but it was just kind of sitting around. Needed a little bit of work done or whatever to get on the road. But honey, when that thing got passed on to me and I just got my license, you couldn't tell me nothing. You couldn't tell me nothing. A Sunbird, get into that name as well, with the solar eclipse coming up. See, so this is someone that is wanting to control destiny and evolution that's happening naturally, like trying to make the car steer in the way that he wants it to go, when it's just not, it's not in a functional it's not functionally sound to do that naturally anymore. It's like out of the mechanics and alignments are all off internally with that card to function in the way that it would naturally. So this is someone that's trying to push against nature and time, I would say, even with the Four of Pentacles. Nature and time. Because they have an agenda. They have a place that they want to go or that they want to stay that is adverse to what is just natural at this time, or ordained at this time. Interesting how that came up. All right, let's see what else on that side. Yeah, and as the world turns, it's like, after a while, like I said, you gotta park that thing or you gonna crash. Like, it's only but so long a car can be manhandled before eventually. And usually, the thing about, you know, transmissions and stuff, when it gets to be that bad, I think it was a transmission issue. If it wasn't, it just makes sense for now, so it matters for that I'm saying that. But usually when you have, that's like the death sentence of a car, particularly an older car, where it's like it ain't even worth, you know, paying the money you would pay for a whole new transmission to you know, against buying a new car and altogether. So by the time you that's the last thing you want to hear is that, oh, the transmission is gone or something wrong with it, to have to get that all fixed, or something with the engine, you know. It's like, oh, well, I guess it's time for that to go to the junkyard, you know, and then you have to go get yourself a new car. And that's the energy here with the world card. It's like you either going to get with it, with the new wave of the new world, or you're going to be put out to pasture. To the junkyard you go. You know, junk for parts and metal, and, you know, and melted down to be some other organism of sorts or for some other use. You know, like, seriously, at this point, it's like it's not but so much you can actually fight against the evolution of time and space and creation when it's ordained from a higher source. You will become the casualty. For sure, before anybody else does. Another confirmation card. Let's see here, there's a lot. Whoa. Wow. And I was actually going here. And here, that was my next point of placement. So let's just let it be, right? So we got the Ace of Wands over here, which is a realignment of passion, a purifying passion at that. So not only, yeah, that makes sense. So not only getting that revelation on what you've done, but also on the great the great projection of power that you wield. Like how powerful, which I've kind of said all of that anyway, but just how powerful you truly are and how empowered you are from what source. Not only the intel and the clarity and knowledge and wisdom and all that good stuff, but this is actually like the ambition, the drive, the creativity, the potential for unlimited manifestation here, like you what you possess and what you're capable of, what value you bring to the realm, unbeknownst to you in many ways, is what I feel. It's like having the evidence of supreme knowledge and supreme power. You know, like you're looking at yourself as this Page of Pentacles, small fry, just being of service to a higher, you know, to a greater mechanism. You know, just being a lowly altar boy to society. You know, that your little contribution doesn't matter much, and then lo and behold, you get the revelation here that, oh, it matters a great deal, and here's how. And it's not just a thought. It's almost like heavenly confirmation or celestial affirmation of some type, you know, like showing you your supreme nature in a physical sense. I don't know how that gets to be. I think that's the mystery of what's being unveiled now and what's unfolding right before our eyes. It's probably going to be quite magnificent individually to us all in some way, shape, or form. A bit of a marvel is what I'm hearing, but it will be undeniable and irrefutable for you personally. And then I feel like it's even going to be a bit of a spectacle outside of you. Like there may be a different essence that protrudes from your being, whether it be by way of things that you know now, or how you speak, how you communicate, ideas that you feel certain of, information that you're privy to, like higher knowledge, and also how you manifest, how you create what you bring to life in a practical sense, in a spiritual sense, and everything in between. It's like everything converging on one accord now. And who's going to be butthurt about it but these energies here that have been positioned to gatekeep? That's what that energy is. That's a gatekeeper right there. Whether it's a person, a place, or a thing, it's been for the purposes of keeping people out of the privilege of this revelation and this knowing here, by keeping them subservient and docile and submissive to a construct and any of those pillars that I mentioned that positions itself to be the way to higher achievement. So if it's religion, if it's education, if it's business, if it's government, if it's entertainment, any of those structures have positioned themselves to have a certain standard of for a point of entry and a point of prosperity, of which not only, and that's the trade-off, because what has happened is that those that have had the audacity and the courage to present themselves as a sacrifice, knowingly or unknowingly, have ultimately become so with this Three of Swords. Usually have encountered some level of heartbreak, trauma, toxicity, just being, again, fed into that cycle of what has kept us entrapped from enlightenment. Wow. This is real. Like, it definitely has a spiritual context for sure, but it's so practical as well. People are going to pay for the role that they've played in this corruption and collusion on every level. And people are going to be repaid for the trauma that they've incurred, particularly unknowing. Because there are some instances where there has to be a rebalancing for those that have, offered themselves as a sacrifice to some degree, have literally kind of sold their own souls into the system, and voluntarily, knowing the consequence, knowing the potential outcome for pain and persecution and things of that sort. It's like, well, they weighed their options and they said, well, I'll take my chances. So there's a balancing act that gets to occur on account of that. But even still, it's not the same scale. It's not weighed on the same scale as those that have positioned themselves to facilitate that frequency, to contribute to it, to create it, to continue it. And for those that have led others to that slaughter, knowing better and knowing full well, that's what the priest and the altar boy energy is given. It's like, you know better. You're in a position to know better and do better, and you choose otherwise. And you choose to prey on the innocent while you do know better. There's a special place in hell on earth. And I'm not saying that people can't be redeemed or that there is not the availability of what do you call it? When you repentance. That there's no availability for repentance, for absolution. There is. But first of all, it comes down to how you come to that place of repentance. Is it on account of, oh, I'm caught, so now I repent, which is how it usually is, especially when you think about the atrocities of the Catholic Church, or just not even just the Catholic Church, because religion in general has done a great deal of damage to vulnerable souls, not just even children, just in general, people just really abusing their cloth, and getting away with it. Because some people are afraid to come against men of the cloth or women of the cloth or people of a certain prominence, for the reasons that I said before, because you don't want to be that one to bring another respected person down, or you're afraid to come against that power and authority. Sometimes even religiously, you're admonished for coming against a so-called man of God, like as if that title absolves anyone from offense, or makes someone resistant to retribution on account of offense. It doesn't. It's just a deflection of guilt and shame toward those that have a right to speak out or to challenge that authority. But all of that is what I'm saying. It's like all of it is being accounted for, as the Hierophant is like a judge. And now it's being not observed, but reviewed by the ultimate judge, the universal judge. Karmic balance. And ain't nobody getting off easy or making no deals in that case. Trust. Yeah, hangman, exactly. Look at this. Sacrificial lambs. And what was it all for? I wonder if you can see over here. Should I go up there or should I come down? I think I'm gonna come down. Wrap it up. Keep it cute today. All right, so we got the Page of Pentacles, And it's been a long time coming for, here's the advancement of, I'm sorry, the Knight, if I said the page, the Knight of Pentacles, but this is the advancement of the page. It's been a slow resolution, a slow revelation, but here it is, and it's something that that can be accounted for. It's stable, it's trustworthy, it's founded and grounded. And it's just it's still just a seed. To me, the Knight of Pentacles is the Knight of Pentacles is an energy of like knowing that there is a possibility for so much more in store. If someone was willing to dedicate and devote themselves to acquire this level of prosperity, then certainly that spirit of devotion can carry into something even more rewarding and sustainable, which kind of proves, kind of affirms my point on this side. As I was saying, it's like you see the small impact that you made. Now you are privy to know just how grand of an impact that truly was, and how it wasn't a small feat to come by with the Knight of Pentacles. That's a hard working energy right there. Very dedicated, very devoted to progress and dependability. So now you know what you're capable of, how invincible you are, how invaluable you are, and you continue on with that spirit of resilience. And it grows. The rewards only grow from here. Well, there's the police. And that could be the physical law enforcement or spiritual law enforcement. But it also gives that your presence is supreme evidence. Yeah. It's like a testimony to the offenses. Maybe some people are actually going to be witnesses for their own defense, or not for their defense, for prosecution of offenders in some way, shape, or form. Or there's some relevance to your presence that advances an investigation or even a conviction. Ooh, yeah. And you know what? It's feeling far more spiritual. It may materialize, or maybe it is materializing as something practical and physical, but it feels very spiritual, because it's like your presence and the evolution and devotion of your presence to, particularly to the system, in a way that wasn't, it's like where this person advanced, they advanced within themselves. They grew, they invested that energy inwardly and became better for it. It wasn't like even the trauma and the drama and the toxicity, even amidst the insistence to, continue this cycle, what would have been a natural propensity to do so. There was a stronger fight in someone that didn't retaliate. As I said before, it's like you may have even considered yourself to be weak, or may have even beat up on yourself at some point in time for not standing up to a certain bully or enemy, or, you know, more forcefully and more aggressively. But little did you know, ooh, that's it too. That's the revelation. The revelation is that your humility was your strength. Wow. Thank you, Spirit. That you had every reason and every right to retaliate, to avenge what was wrongly done to you, to become the aggressor, to push back against the abuser, or do something in retaliation in a way that may have been less righteous, but that would have rendered you just as guilty in spirit as this opposition may have been in truth, and maybe not actually so. Like, I don't know if it would have been counted against you and you know, in the spiritual sense, but maybe it would have. And maybe the fact that there was no retaliation, there was no aggression or anger or rage that you acted out of. Instead, it's like you put that little quarter back in your pocket, invested that energy into yourself, into becoming more knowledgeable, more clear, more aware, more wise, to advance your purest passions, to alchemize your unfavorable experiences, to grow. And it doesn't even, it seems like it's not that great of a growth spurt here from the page to the night, but that's the point. It's like you don't see how much you've grown, or how much you allowed yourself or invested in your growth has made all the difference in changing the trajectory of your transcendence, your forward movement, and for the legacy that you champion for, chariot here. Had you become just like the opposition, you may have jaded yourself from overcoming the cycle that you ultimately were being impressed to continue. You may have become just like that energy, and no, you may have not been wrong for responding the way that you would have, but you wouldn't have been righteous for your own path. You would have missed the mark of healing, of I keep saying transcendence and ascendance. You would have missed the opportunity here, because that's what pain does. It bruises you in ways that don't allow you to move forward. It holds you back when that's the lens that you're looking from. And that was the intention, for you to always be looking through this lens of pain and trauma and again, like I said, trauma that wasn't even yours to carry. Generational trauma that was just passed down. It's like the energy of slavery, to be, you know, more practical, that energy passed down over, and the spirit that comes along with that, not just slavery itself, but the feeling of unworthiness, of being discounted in society, discarded, disregarded, like inferior, like all of those energies that come from a very specific place and a spirit that continue to get passed down even to us now still, even in the ways that we do religion, if you get into it, as to how religion itself was used as a tool to condition slaves to feel inclined to subservitude. You know, even that practical essence, that permeates a legacy continuously on and on for generations and generations, to the point where people don't even remember the origins of their spiritual nature, or where their original practices, because they've been conditioned to foreign practices that were only used to condition them to a certain there's a word that I'm looking for, for enslavement purposes. And this is not just strict to religion, but I'm using this to be very specific. And it's not an attack on religion or religious structures, but you have to see the connection. And that now, to the point where we go to church every Sunday, we don't even know why we do that. It's, like this, there's a very a distinct connection to why we feel conditioned that we must be in church, or we must worship this way, or believe this way, or else we may be in some discourse with our maker or our supreme source or God itself if we don't. When the origin of that frame of thinking comes from a very man-made and fabricated place altogether. And certainly there is a connection to devotion to supreme self and what consequences may ensue if you break with that commitment, but it's not necessarily on account of what church you attend or what religious affiliation you are. That was the injected truth that is now being exposed and disposed of. And there's contention there because, as I said, some particularly older generations don't feel comfortable. Some don't, some been woke in different ways, but some of if you're particularly like me, where you grew up in church and that was a way of life, that was a way of being, literally, there was a direct correlation between church and life. Like, church is life to some degree. Certainly God is life, but it's like really cleansing where that ideal has been tainted, and now repurposing it or reaffirming it more so for what it truly means to you now as a more evolved creature, beyond what was necessity, beyond the fact that church was a safe community space. It was a place where you could, particularly for Black folks, where you could be free to express yourself to some degree and feel secure in certain confines of, in sanctity with those that look like you and that you can trust, and and that there was a support system there in a small community where you didn't have that support from the world at large, those pillars, where you had to find your own sanctuary within society. It's like you can't negate the relevance for that existence. You can't trash it altogether. But it's like with the car energy, it's like, how does that energy transmit now? What is it? How is it being used now? Are we just answering to a different master under a different name or under a different guise in a different robe, or is it time to liberate ourselves to see our own power potential, of which we've been ordained to express, and exactly how that expression has already made an impact on creation overall. Like how precious and important we've already been, not servants or docile or subservient, I should say, at all, but actually very impressionable and beings that have that are, I don't even know how to say it, but like our value is important. It's invaluable, as a matter of fact. Our presence is invaluable. You can't really see that when you're looking at it from a lens where, I know I'm valuable, but not as much as this or him or that, or in the presence of this. Like to be in a religion, so to speak, where you don't even feel that you as you are is worthy to inhabit the presence of God. You have to understand at some point in time where that notion derived from, to be able to release yourself from it, liberate your soul and your spirit to be just as sacred as the energy that you profess to worship. There's been a gatekeeper here. And not just in religion, on every pillar, because if you work that kink out into every pillar that I spoke of, there's that energy there that is always working to make everything else but it feel lower than it. And now it's time to answer for it. It's time for that to be rebalanced. Ooh, that's upside down. I'm gonna take it. You know what? I don't think it should be. It was kind of sideways, but I'm gonna take it. Because what this because what this is telling, no, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not, because I don't have to. And that's not the truth of where this message is leading. And we know it from what I'm saying. That those that may want to live, that's a projection, that may want to live in the adverse energy of choosing everything but their highest self. That is almost exemplary of what I'm saying even right now. The projection of wanting you to feel like you don't have the right to choose the highest you, that there is no highest you, there is no supreme you, there's only supreme source and nothing else. That's what that projection is. And it did kind of come on the side. I wish you could have seen it, but I felt like, okay, well, maybe it's supposed to be reversed. And that's exactly the impression that is being imposed here. That maybe I'm wrong, maybe we're wrong for just wanting to cater to the highest and most supreme nature of who we are. To even have the audacity to see ourselves. The old world would be the adverse, the cycle of toxicity that they want us to continue to operate in. The new world is exactly this, upright and true. That we are the essence of creation. Spirit expresses itself through our being. Particularly for those that choose to have that exchange, to be that transmission. Not everybody will choose that, of course. Not everybody will choose that. I don't even think I said much about the Knight of Swords, probably because there's not much to say unless he's also in the upright, because we know the type of energy Knight of Swords been given lately. And then up under the Four of Pentacles, it's like you can't resist who you are anymore. Somebody's still trying to hold on to an old identity that doesn't translate. That's what that is over there. So now we're done with that and we're on to the Lovers. It's time to be a magnetic force for those things that are divinely in alignment with your identity, your natural, organic, God-given identity, not the projection, not the illusion, not who you've been told you are, the history, the history that's been force-fed to you, the pillars that have been built upon your own very legacy, literally built upon your own backs, and then you become a servant to it. No, it's to be the pillar now, of which creation itself can be rebuilt upon. The new wave of life, built in spirit and in truth now. And it comes with a protective shield, is what I'm getting here with the Chariot. Like when you're operating in this uprightness in the New World Order, it's built-in security for you. Built-in prosperity, built-in security. Like you get to just live. You don't really have to be worried about looking over your shoulder, answering to any other authority, unjustifiably, protecting yourself from attack, trying to, to supplement imbalances. None of that. Like it's it's a completely, it's a sanctified space of life that you are getting to create, not in any other place, but right here within. It seems like virtually impossible, which is why I feel like it tried to come out in the reverse, because it's like the powers that were don't even want you to believe that such an existence can exist when you look around at the world we're living in today, where this is all we see: destruction, pain, trauma, drama, phony fakeness, materialisticness, the need for police presence just to even feel somewhat safe, even though that's a big question mark at times. That's the projection of life that has been pushed upon us, as if this is all what seeing is believing. Like, this is all you should believe for, because this is what is visible. But there's something far more possible, a privileged life to live within the realm of reality that we already inhabit. We get to change that order. We get to set the standard of life in that regard, not the other way around anymore. The transference of power and wealth is already underway. It's just that some of us are the last to know. It's already known what's taking place, but soon, as I said before, it'll be a truth that is undeniable and irrefutable. That no glimmer of magic or manipulation will be able to resist. But it definitely matters that we continue to see it as a possibility and as a presence, even already a presence, to just help to usher it in that much more easily. And that, back to what I said, is the point of seeing the true essence of our power, that we are the ones that have drawn this manifestation unto us to become a 3D reality. We are the ones. We are the ones that we were waiting for, and we are the ones that are. Already manifested. Already present. Literally gifts to society, as opposed to the projection otherwise, where we were servants to. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, stand your ground on that truth. Know it, be it, and wherever there is a call to release energy or walk away from things that don't align with that reality, don't be afraid to make that step, to make that move, to find your peace of mind, your sanctuary, your oasis, your Garden of Eden of sorts elsewhere. It may not be where you've always tried to cultivate it, or where you were told it would be, or how you would attain it, or if you did this, it would get you that. There's a turning over of those illusions now, to the point where the truth, stranger than fiction, may be that where you've been is not exactly where you need to be, or what you've been investing yourself in, the energy that you've invested into certain truths and passions may be well placed and better invested elsewhere, and that's okay. That's to know that, to come to that realization is actually a gift. And then to actually have the passion, the influence, the courage to respond to that reckoning is definitely something that sets you apart from the norm, from the status quo, from what everybody else is doing, because it's far easier to just go, far easier, is that right? I think so. To just go along, to get along in any capacity that I've expressed here today, than it is to actually stand head and shoulders above the rest on what you find and what you know to be true about you, who you are, what you have the potential to create, the destiny that lies ahead of you, and what you deserve. So be empowered to follow that truth wherever it leads, and know, as I'm glad I'm putting it right here with the Chariot card, that you're already victorious in that pursuit and protected along the way, along that path. All right, so I'm gonna leave that here. Thank you for listening and watching. Godspeed to you in all that you're doing. Don't forget, this is still a time for rest and rejuvenation. So don't feel the impulse. You know, there's a lot of Aries energy that would make you want to feel like, I gotta do something now, and want to barrel through, you know, certain delays and detours, or just yellow lights to slow down, maybe even a red light altogether. This is Mercury retrograde. We're still in that full moon energy coming up on this solar eclipse. So it's still time for it. You still have time to rest and revive your spirit, to reflect on what intel is pouring into you at this time, to give yourself moments of peace and quiet, to hear the inaudible, to feel the intangible, so that you know how to respond and react when it absolutely is go time. And it's a coming. And hell, it may be for you already. I don't know your life, but I know that there's a difference between the incitement to act and how even that energy can be conflicting and projective, to make you feel like you're not doing enough right now with all that you know and all the energy that you have, when in actuality, it may not be a matter of doing. It's it's always the matter of being first and foremost. And maybe being still, being at rest, being at peace is all that the universe is calling for at this time. And you'll know from that point and that posture, you'll know exactly when it's time to do and when it's time to go. All right, so thank you again for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.